Your voice, your opinion, your community. Fact TV, free speech protected.
Local news, politics, business, sports, arts, music. Mike and Marty on the feed. Mike and Marty. Mike and Marty on the feed.
Keene, and welcome to the feed. It's Mike and Marty. We're here with Gary Fox today. We've survived Groundhog Day. Now 6 more weeks of winter coming, but you know, what are you gonna do?
I think it's 6 more weeks of winter anyway, but it does seem that he's right because we got a storm coming, I think, tomorrow, and then I think something on Saturday, and so here we go.
All right, but first, Marty with local events.
So at the Bellows Falls Opera House for the second week is Dog Man. That's going to be playing through February 11th. It does look like I did watch the television preview for it. It looks like it's a cute movie.
Mm-hmm.
The classic movie this week is hands down one of my favorite movies, and I can watch it over and over again and still laugh at the same stupid things. It's Dumb and Dumber. Love it. Love that movie. The second, wasn't there Dumb and Dumber 2?
Yeah.
Not as good. The original. And it is sponsored, coincidentally, by Edward Jones and Bill Stevens. Coincidentally. Unfortunately, we'll not be able to go tonight, but I do love that movie. So this Sunday at the Opera House is the final 2 installments of the Vermont movie. So it's a 6-part series. They've been doing every Sunday for 3 weeks. And it's all about some unique things in Vermont history and how Vermont was in some ways very much on the cutting edge of policies and things. So this is the last 2 parts of it. And I do not believe there is a question and answer with this section of it. Then next Saturday, mark your calendar, buy your tickets. February 15th, we are bringing back, drumroll please, the Rotary Spaghetti Dinner.
All right.
Woo! We haven't done it in, I think, 3 years.
Oh, yeah.
And it's going to be back at its original location. It'll be at the Moose. 2 seatings, a 5:30 seating and a 7 p.m. seating. Tickets are $10, only $10 for adults, $8 for children. All of the usual things, the spaghetti, the delicious meatballs, salad.
Brownies, right?
Brownies.
Yep.
And all of the money that Rotary raises in events like this, and this isn't really like a huge fundraiser, it's more a community event, but we do get some money. It all goes back into the community. I mean, we have requests on a regular level to help other organizations with funding and of course our scholarships. So come out. I know it's the day after Valentine's Day, so maybe you kind of blew the budget on Valentine's Day. So it's only $10. Or if you forgot Valentine's Day and you're in the doghouse, you can say, wait a minute, I was saving this special event. So go to the Moose on Saturday, February 15th. Spaghetti dinner, support Rotary.
Okay.
Have you ever been to yeah, it's worth it, isn't it?
It is.
Some good vittles. I'm just saying. Okay.
Okay. I'm going to throw in one more event.
Okay.
On the 17th at Main Street Arts. The 17th is a Monday, and at Main Street Arts, it's also school break.
Oh, okay. It is.
So they're
right?
going to do a family picnic sort of idea, and they're going to have lunch and music and sing-alongs, and so if you're looking for something to do, with your kids, Main Street Arts on Monday the 17th. Okay, sorry.
So we are back for part 4 of economic development. We've covered how projects become more than we think they're going to be.
Starting with brownfield.
Brownfields. How you're going to run into environmental. How important it is to develop, especially downtown areas, because you get more bang for your buck with tax
value per acre, yes.
Then part 3, more about the Brownsfields. And if you don't, and actually the whole idea of if you don't revitalize, if you don't do these things, they're not going to get better, and you just end up going downhill. So, I mean, it has to be done. And now, today we're going to talk more about what comes, what's the next steps. There's a lot of focus.
Sort of the theme of public investment creates private investment, or isn't that the theory?
That's
Yeah.
That's the principle.
The principle, that's a better word for it.
Yeah.
So what, in this case, what are we trying to do?
Good question. So I'd like to start with an example.
Yes,
So,
yes, yes.
Robertson Paper Company Field, buildings crumbling, all kinds of contamination from machine shops to paper stuff to petroleum, and getting that cleaned up. So okay, we have a beautiful field, large lot, 3-phase power, zoned industrial. You could do anything there, and so the people who funded the cleanup, right? They will brownfields money from EPA, State Department of Environmental Conservation. It's important to them that you have an end use and they see the product. And so that field, the purpose for those funds were economic development. That was the basis of the grant agreements. It was in all the grant agreements. So, so of course the funders are there. Okay,
We did
December of 2019, it's cleaned up, it's ready to go. Where's the economic development? Where's the building? And so Bellows Falls Area Development Corporation had a feasibility study for a tenant that was ready to go in there. Vermont Culinary Islands, bursting at the seams in BDCC's incubator building, needed to move out and expand. They built out of granite hardwoods islands, like cooking islands, bar islands that would go on top of resorts, rooftops.
Oh,
like
really?
in
Interesting.
Caribbean, just a lot of projects in the pipeline. And then, so they were looking at the facility. We did a feasibility study, scoped out the facility, production. The architect team, spent time at Culinary Islands, developed, workflow, operations, and funding, size, the civil engineering to fit on the site, and then COVID hit. And you
I was
can't-
just going to say, I was
traveling
waiting,
is shut
I was
down. You
waiting
can-
for that particular
Right.
shoe to drop, because I'm like,
Right.
wow, why didn't that happen? But,
So instead of the pipeline and bursting at the seams, they are shrinking and laying off. So regardless, though, the study showed perfect spot. The New Market Tax Credit redevelopment was somewhere between $11 million and $13 million. And then, so you look at that, and you look at getting private investment in there.
that's where the tax credits come into play? Is that,
Well,
as I understand, sort of?
Yes. But just from a high level view, think of yourself as a business investing millions of dollars, whatever tax credits, debt, whatever your tools are, and you're on an island, and Bridge Street Bridge it needs to be redone for safety, but that one you could still drive trucks over, and then so you're on an island, and then the next bridge, not only is unsafe, it's posted, it's crumbling into the canal, so you can't drive trucks or buses over it that service the island.
Yeah.
And then the third bridge has been totally closed since 2009, and you're asking someone to come in when they have plenty of places around Vermont that could use redevelopment, that are happy to support redevelopment, to spend that kind of money when, and then Island Street. So you come onto the island, and it goes uphill. And that's because there's a hunk of granite ledge there that drove the Connecticut River around the island, and that's why you have that lump there that then the canal could make an island. And so the sewer pipes they come up from the north side, and they fed that end of Robertson Paper where it was 2 stories because it was high, but it was soft dirt, and the further you got up Island Street, the granite rose so that it was right up at the slab by the time you got maybe a third of the way up Island Street. And the stormwater drain right there on the corner at 30 Island Street, it's about, you could see the bottom, and if it rains hard, water's coming up out of it. So anyway, you have some infrastructure investment that's required. And so the good news is that we have an opportunity now to change that whole story with Depot Street coming from the canal is getting rebuilt with a new bridge that's off alignment that could easily handle large trucks without traffic
Right.
stress. The Greyhounds and the tour buses that go to the Waypoint Center, no problem. And but you cross the railroad tracks as a chain link fence, and then the crumbling roads, and you know, all of a sudden it's not so bright anymore, and like the street lights, and so. The Bellows Falls Intermodal Transportation Center, the train station project, redoes all of the road work around there, the lights, the parking situation. Instead of crumbling pavement, you have new roads with sidewalks, the sidewalks with trees between traffic, and a new platform that's concrete instead of crumbling, and you know, edged with a steel rail so that it doesn't crumble into the railbed. So you have a gateway that's getting fixed up like the square is. It's modernized and it's in good shape, and it's attractive and vibrant. And so then you start to have a picture that public investment that encourages private investment. And we have an area-wide plan that identifies what there's a demand for. It gives base information to funders in terms of how much room there is to build, how many square feet of commercial space, how many square feet of housing, what the increase in tax value would be from adding those buildings. And so the town can use that to go to the Economic Development Administration and say, okay, so here's the economic inputs. Here's the benefit of this redevelopment. And what the EDA does, Federal Economic Development Authority, they fund things like water and sewer and streetscape improvements to support that economic development. So all of a sudden, yes, we've invested some private money, but then also because of the times, the Depot Street Bridge, mostly funded by Federal Highway and State of Vermont stepping up with their ARPA funds to do a lot of the local match share. And then the Economic Development Authority helping with the other pieces. So that's the public investment, and it makes it feasible without burdening the taxpayers to pay for all of that, and then encourages the private investment to come in.
Right. So you've made it more attractive. You have a site, and now you can source that. Like, it's like a phased process. Like you have to have this base phase, if I'm understanding it correctly, to get like the things that maybe a private investor isn't going to want to put money into, that sewer work, that paving work, basically not for lack of a better term, the infrastructure of it. They just want to put their building up and have all of that done. Like that truly, and I think that's generally the case. So, but how do you get there? So you get there through these different steps. So you have to look at the bigger picture. I think there's been some micro focus on this one little thing, thinking that it's
one little time.
Yeah, and it's that it's like, why are we doing this? You have to look at the big picture. We're doing it because that's the one place that we can. I mean, otherwise, what's going to come into Robertson Field? Like something's not going to come. It's not going to be as attractive. It's going to be harder. So yet we have this. It's really the only space in town I can think of that is that big, that can handle something kind of big in there, which would be awesome for the downtown area. It would benefit everybody having some entity there that maybe had, a larger number of employees than the average bear, using all of the services, helping all the small shop local places in downtown. It's a trickle down effect, I don't know, really trickle down, more spreading the wealth, but you have to get through the steps.
And so that big picture piece is that we've only lived here for 30 years. And during that time have gone from being able to buy a house, have low taxes, 3,500 people in town, some full vibrant schools. And we live right across from the middle school, the high school. Allie went to the schools there and it was great, loved it. And to the population steadily dropping to the 2020 census, 2,700 and something.
Wow.
The schools starting to be very empty, and at this annual school meetings every year, how come there's so many teachers per student, empty classrooms, and also the buildings. So the buildings that people work in, having lost so many, like the 30-acre multiple use area that's the historic district of the island. Half of the buildings that are identified as contributing structures are gone from when that was
Because they just
study was done in the
deteriorated too
1980s.
much?
Yeah. And so all of those buildings contribute to the grand list and were part of our taxes being really low in 1990 when we moved here. And so, the last day tax is getting higher and higher, so replacing these buildings, especially in the downtown where they have that tax value per acre, the island is the place where that's available. And so that public investment to show that the communities we're investing in ourselves and help encourage the private investment to come in and start to change our tax piece, refill the schools, all of those things. If we just, like, another way of meeting the budget and not raising taxes is to cut stuff. But you keep cutting and cutting, you don't recover.
Yeah.
You
don't
don't.
get
You
back
absolutely don't.
to
You
the
don't.
place,
Yeah.
that sweet spot of vibrancy with
Yeah.
the 3,500 residents and full schools. And
Yeah, you said something earlier though that when we were granted money to clear up the brownfields,
Right.
it was with the expectation that we would do economic development.
Right.
But is there a time limit when you have to do that economic development, or you have to pay back the grants, or is it something like that?
yeah, that's a good question. So there's 5 different grants, and each grant agreement has different details and particulars.
Of course they
And-
do.
Yeah. And,
Sorry.
and COVID provided some reprieve in those conditions, but I think the important thing is that the economic development gets done. So the Depot Street Bridge and train station are kind of a gateway to lead into that. And the area-wide plan of having something commercial industrial in the Robertson paper site and adding mixed-use residential, the select board last night approved a pre-development agreement with DEW to explore a housing development that we engaged White and Burke to help create at Zero Bridge Street. So did the civil engineering, what can fit there, parking underneath, 30 apartment units, a story of commercial that looks out on the canal, faces the canal, right? We don't have any businesses that really face the canal, because
nice.
from history, in the old days, the backs of the buildings is what went,
Face
like,
the canal.
Yeah.
like on the river. Like if you look in downtown Brattleboro, beautiful buildings, beautiful river, and the backs are all to
Yeah,
the
you're right,
canal,
you're
right?
right.
Bells Falls, beautiful canal running through there, and it's all the backs of the buildings that are not the attractive piece. So anyway, starting to turn that around, and so. In that, and BFADC is working with Great River Co-op to set up not just a consumer cooperative, but a farmer-producer cooperative at the Robertson site. And so those kind of work well together, and would get the New Market Tax Credit Project. And speaking to those folks, they like the co-ops because the purpose of those tax credits is job creation, and they want to have above median wage jobs that pay benefits, full-time jobs, and the co-ops do that. And on the housing unit, they will do housing as long as the revenues are never more than 70% of the project. And so and they like to have more of a split, like 50-50. And so for the job creation, they like to see the low and moderate income jobs availability to that. And so they have a 20% component. So for the 7-year life of the tax credit, that 20% of the units are for low and moderate income. So for 80% of the units, you could have anything you want. It could be workforce, it could be market rate. So senior management or senior engineers come and want to work at Chroma. There's places they can live. They're not boxed out because of income.
That's a big conundrum. All of this stuff is a conundrum, and a lot of it ties back to housing. And so they were just saying that somebody at the state level was just some little news blurb I said that was warning that Vermont could become really difficult in Vermont because we're losing so much population and we have such an aging population. So these types of projects, while they don't seem like, they're just little things happening, but they're the type things that are going to build the foundation for people to be moving here or staying here. I think it's more staying here because you do have a place to live. You have better than average wages, and all of those things they're all the little things that we can do to try to just make everything better for everybody. But it's on a smaller scale. Like we can think. I think right now there's a kind of a feeling of helplessness among a lot of people right now. So these are the type things that we can do here that we're already in the pipeline that will ultimately, at the end of the day, when all is said and done, make it a better place to live. There's some pain. We have to go through some pain. We've had to pay some more funding than thought. But again, to go back to the first time that we had this discussion, it is the nature of a project. It really is. I don't think you ever are going to do something, first of all, as quickly as you think it's going to happen, not on this scale. And it's always going to, stuff's always going to come up. You made a point about, all the contamination. Like, you said, if we don't take care of it, we're just leaving it for the next generation. I mean, it's got to be taken care of. It's not going to go away.
Yeah.
So...
And it's affecting the population now.
Yeah.
That's something that we were talking about earlier. Is that living on contaminated land is not
the best. It's not a good. It's not a good fit. I'm just saying.
It's not a good strategy.
It's not a good. That's even better. It's not a good strategy. Exactly.
So by redeveloping the post-industrial area, we're cleaning up that part of the village so that the next generation has not just attractive places to live and above median wage jobs, but healthy, safe, healthy places to live, and they won't have to bear the burden of our lack of knowledge jumping into industrial stuff without knowing the damage that we did that our generation has probably lived through.
Right, because you think. I don't know, you think back, it was common practice to not, like, we were in an industrial area, mills, and it was common practice to, dump it in the river.
About the Connecticut River being different colors.
Right, whatever, you knew what color paper they were making because
the river was that color.
Yeah.
And then people were swimming and eating the fish out of it. It's like,
Anyhow, so we have about just about 2.5 minutes. So the best way for people to have a voice in this is to vote.
Right.
To come to town meeting, which is on Saturday, March 1st at 2 p.m. at the Bells Falls Middle School. It's not far off.
A few weeks.
And the pertinent, we did a little preview last week. The pertinent articles are Articles 10 for the train station, right? And then Article 9 for the fire department. But that's not exactly pertinent to our conversation. But it's Article 10 for the train station. So obviously vote your conscience, but hopefully people now really get it. Like, it's not just, it's never, what is it? It's never just this. It's not just the train station. It's everything else that's tied into it. It's just that's the first cog in the wheel.
Yeah, and the fire prevention, having a good, well-run modern stations and equipments is an important aspect of being attractive to stay here and live here. And things change. Bells Falls has been, and Rockingham have been great with the way the fire departments were, but times change. Availability of firefighters and the workplace and what that's like, and leaving in the middle of the day for a fire that's gotten challenging, and it needs to be restructured so that we have the appropriate trained force to do the fire prevention. And March 1st town meeting, you can put your vote in to support those, and the train station ends up $4.5 to $5 million to do everything, which for a gateway to move stuff around is great. And the amount that we have to kick in as taxpayers. So there's an article for $137,000 that's debt service. That it's not really an increase because the debt that we've been carrying on previous projects from 10 years ago drop off. And so the roof on Town Hall, there's a few articles that are borrowing, and then those annual debt service will kind of replace the debt service that's on there, so that's pretty much level. And it gets us, for the train station portion, that's all matches cleanup grants. So
Right.
it gets us $1 million of getting rid of the chemicals. And
Yeah, and it's
Yeah.
kind of like you
Yeah.
got to prove you got to put skin in the game, or the state's not going to fund you. So if we vote not to have skin in the game, no one, it's not going to get funded. So just that, I'll leave on that note
Okay.
because we are
And
out of
just
time.
So the booklet for the annual meeting for town meeting has lots of material in there about the fire study, about all the financials for the train station, what they were in 2022, what they are today. So get the book early when it will be out next week, and read up. You'll know
Do
what
your
questions.
due diligence.
That's
Great.
right.
Bye, community.
All right, bye, community. See you next week.
Thank you.
Local news, politics, business, sports, arts, music. My